It's time for the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games at Southern Utah University in Cedar City. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of a Utah sports tradition at utahsummergames.org. Participate in over 50 sports around the state. Then plan to join the opening ceremonies Friday, June 5th, presented by State Bank of Southern Utah. Register today to participate in the 40th anniversary season of the Larry H. Miller Utah Summer Games.
Insurance isn't one size fits all, and shopping for it shouldn't feel like squeezing into something that just doesn't fit. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they show you options that fit your budget. Enough hunting for discounts, trying to calculate rates, and tinkering with coverages. Maybe you're picking out your very first policy, or maybe you're just looking for something that works better for you and your family. Either way, they make it simple to see your options. No guesswork, no surprises. Ready to see how easy and fun shopping for car insurance can be? Visit Progressive.com and give the Name Your Price tool a try. Take the stress out of shopping and find coverage that fits your life on your terms. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We're joined now by Real Salt Lake head coach Pablo Mastroeni. Pablo, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Pablo, one game. And then 7 weeks off for the World Cup. You're not going to have to talk to us for a long period of time. You got to be looking forward to this.
Not really, DJ. I've realized that this constant roller coaster of coaching keeps me sane. Actually, I think time off just makes idle hands are the devil's workshop, as they say. So
That's
I'm not
my
looking
mother?
forward to so much time off.
You get 3 or 4 weeks at this point because you'll come back with some kind of mini training camp, even though you won't be playing games for 7 weeks. You're not really going away for 7 weeks.
Right. No, and the great thing is we've identified a few areas that are areas of concern, not concern as much as just areas that we need to improve on drastically. And so I think this break really allows us to kind of get in the weeds, hopefully, build upon what we've been able to do at the start of the campaign, but really be a little bit more detail oriented as to some of the areas where we can spend 3 or 4 weeks on improving before, the second half of the season is going to be, gauntlet as far as the amount of games and then obviously Leagues Cup. And so, it'll give us a time to kind of prepare for that.
I don't think you have an MLS home game until August, which seems crazy considering they were in May. But pretty much everybody's in the same boat as far as that goes. Do you see any advantage or disadvantage for RSL relative to what the other teams are doing?
To be fair, PK, I don't know everyone else's schedule. I just think that, one of the areas obviously is how we deal with away games and do a better job of getting results away from home. Obviously, we have a big test tomorrow against Minnesota, and that'd be a good, test run as to how we manage games the right way, attack the game the right way. And so, if our schedule is such that we don't have a lot of home games from now to August, then the onus is on us to really, control what we can, which is attacking these road games with the right type of mentality.
7-1 at home, spectacular, but only 4 points from the 5 road games. I heard that after the most recent win, which was at home, that the talk in the locker room turned immediately to taking that performance and transferring it to the road. And you always talk about coach-guided, player-led. Hearing those kind of comments, that's got to warm your heart.
Yeah, it really does. I think, again, like I've said from the beginning, this is a special group where, the video sessions are interactive. The talks after a really good performance against our biggest rivals lends itself to how do we become a better team on the road. So this is a group that really is thinking big, but also putting the work in during where I feel like we can achieve some big things. And so, hearing that after that game, I chuckled to myself and I said, wow, this is pretty amazing. Because that's the same way I'm thinking. They're thinking like a coach. They're not thinking like players. And when you have that, that's a group that can lead themselves. So super proud of the guys.
Well, you look at the statistics, and this is a game that is ripe for the winning, and hopefully you guys get it because you got the 25 goals in 13 matches, a 7-goal differential. And Minnesota, 17 goals, but has allowed 21. So what do you think about getting an opportunity to get up 1-0, maybe even 2-0, because then that puts an enormous amount of pressure on Minnesota?
Yeah, so that's been the focus, PK. I think, in our away games, we've started not sluggish, but we changed our approach to the first 15, 20 minutes of the game, which is at home, very vertical, threatening back lines, creating chances on goal. And then away from home, our last two performances in Dallas and LA have been where we're trying to keep possession of the ball in our half. And so, it's almost a psychological thing where I feel like we want to manage games from the start as far as like preserve our energy, but we don't ask any questions of our opponent's back line. And so I think, like you rightly pointed out, this is a group that, is trying to play from the back, has been a bit more expansive than they have in years past. And the onus is on us to ask a lot of questions of their back line and the way they want to defend. So hopefully, like you said, we can get ahead of the score line and now manage the game from that perspective, which I think we've done a pretty good job of. So it'll be a good test for us. Again, a relatively young group that will be out there. But again, with the young group that we started in Colorado, I've seen a lot of growth and experience gained from these matches.
Minnesota actually has a better road record than a home record, which is very rare, but they only have 8 points in their 6 home games. And they've taken 13 on the road in 8 road games. So that's crazy. They have a history of defending RSL very well, both in the playoffs when you met and in the regular season. Are they playing the same way? Because tactically they were doing stuff that seemed pretty hard for you to break down. Obviously, you've changed your formation. I wonder how much they've changed over time.
Yeah, so they've had a lot of change really to the philosophy as to the way they want to play, where in years past, I think they were really comfortable letting the other team have the ball and really breaking out from transition and scoring goals. So they were real solid defensively, and that's what allowed them to win games 1-0, these really tight games. And once once teams committed a lot of numbers and they scored the goal, then it was very, very difficult to break them down. Where this year, I feel like they have their front three are really, really good players. And in order to make them go, you're going to have to keep the ball. And so they've been more aggressive defensively and offensively. And so it lends itself to space and opportunities. But again, they have the firepower to score with possession as well. So, but I think, big picture perspective, they've changed quite a bit in the way they want to attack the game. And so it should be a different look, Minnesota. And we're a different team this year as well. So it should be a great matchup.
If you win, that would be 28 points from 14 games going into this big World Cup break. Pablo, there aren't many teams in Major League Soccer that go through a season averaging 2 points a game. And as you pointed out, the schedule is going to get so congested, you may not be able to do it either. But would there, given the fact you have 7 weeks, you're the king of looking ahead to the next game almost immediately. Would you take just a brief little window and have a sense of satisfaction, since you have a 7-week break, over how this first portion of the season has gone, if you do indeed arrive there with 28 points in 14 games?
Oh, absolutely, DJ. I think we talked about internally after last year, where we got off to a rough start, the importance of getting off to a good start this year. And obviously with a lot of new players coming in, you don't know how long it's going to take to gel. But really, since day one in preseason, the mentality of the group was really clear that we were going to be a competitive force in the West. And so, I think if we can finish that way, it would definitely lend itself to a much more enjoyable, 6-7 weeks off, and obviously 3 weeks, and then we get back into camp. But I think it leaves everyone with a great taste in their mouth. And also for the player, from a playing perspective, it's that motivation to make sure that you're doing the work in these next 3 weeks, even though, we want them to get time away. We also want them to maintain a certain standard of fitness so that we're not starting from scratch when we get back. And I think a win at the weekend would definitely help that.
You have players who are literally from all over the world. You got guys from South America. You got guys from Europe. Hey, you got a guy from Irvine. So, some guys have to go further than other here. I assume they'll scatter. Do you worry about their ability to get back? Visas and immigration, sometimes it's tricky. And when they're gone for 3 weeks, their ability to maintain conditioning. It's not an off season, but it kind of is. And some of these guys are going a long way away with a lot of travel.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, the visa situation is handled with guys in our front office and our team admin who do a really good job. And they keep their finger on the pulse as far as which countries will be more difficult. So those players will obviously be closely watched from that perspective. And then as far as the staying fit piece, our fitness performance crew, who do a fantastic job as well, are sending the guys away with a packet, and they'll just upload their workouts so that we have a good understanding as to what they've been doing. So like I said, I think the most important thing is making sure that we get off on we leave this part of the season on the right foot so that the motivation is there. Oftentimes, you don't win the game and it's like, poor me, and I want to take a break, and it's because we've been working so hard, and all these different things. But you win the game, and it's amazing how the mindset shifts 1 degree and goes, I'm going to stay fit. I'm going to be ready to go.
You've been asked this question before. I've heard you asked multiple times, and you've always said you don't know. And I just wonder, as we get closer, if you start to have an idea, even if you can't say anything, which I wouldn't like, but I would get it. Do you have any idea about Gozo and Luna to the World Cup? Have you heard anything at all from the national team staff?
No, they've DJ, and it's been obviously we've been in contact with our medical staff has been in contact with their medical staff in regards to Luna's situation, a tight hamstring, but as far as getting anything out of them, it's so tight-lipped, it's unbelievable. They've done a fantastic job of keeping their cards close to the vest. We have zero idea. There's talks that they might let the players know before the weekend. That hasn't been solidified. So, there's a good chance that we'll all find out when everyone else finds out. What
are you going to do with yourself this time off? Arizona, Colorado, Utah's backcountry?
Yeah, both. We're going back to Colorado, spend some time with the family, and the kids are back from summer break, so that'll be a house full again, which is rare anymore once the kids move out.
Yeah.
So that'll be great. And then going back, and both of our families are in Arizona, so going hopefully to play some, a little bit of golf, early morning golf anyways. It's starting to get hot. So, yeah, just kind of hanging out. No big plans. My wife wanted to take a trip to Europe and go on a cruise, and it just didn't materialize. But I really enjoy just kind of hanging around the house. We do enough traveling during the season anyways, so we'll find some time to get some trips in, more local than abroad.
All right. Well, enjoy a little bit of time off, and hopefully enjoy Minnesota first.
Sounds great, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pablo. This is Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, joining us right here on The Zone. It's an afternoon game, a rare afternoon game, but there it is, 2:30 at Allianz Field. You'll hear the game here on The Zone, 1:30 for the pregame show. And then the World Cup. Tight-lipped, no leaking, no word. Luna's missed the last game with a tight hamstring, so we'll see where that goes. Trying to get him ready for the World Cup. DJ PK, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking NBA playoffs with David Locke. And I'm going to run past that theory. Am I worried about nothing? 3 70-game seasons out of 21 for the 3 7-footers the Jazz could be running across the front line. We will get to that coming up next. David Locke joins us right here. Stay with us on The Zone.
Welcome to This is Chase Scott and Ben Anderson.
It seems like there's a little more buzz out there about the Jazz possibly trading up because they love A.J. DiBonsa. Absolutely do not do it, because I think both players are going to be good. Mm-hmm. It's one of those win-win type scenarios. But if there is a wrong decision to be made, Washington's going to make it.
Sure.
Whoever falls to the Jazz is going to be the better of the two. I would almost bet on it.
I don't think there's a lot of value in the Jazz feeling like they should go nuts to get up to that number 1 overall pick. If the picks are that close, why are you giving up a ton to get there? And And then if they're not close and there's a major drop-off from number 1 to number 2, why would Washington trade it? Washington needs that guy. They think there's a superstar at 1 and only an okay player at 2, and the Jazz are trying to get out of that spot. Why would the Wizards do that? I don't think the logic actually adds up.
Don't be the sucker. Let Washington pick the guy that they want to pick. And honestly, if Jazz gets stuck, quote unquote, with Darren Peterson, who cares? He's a great player.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK.
Yes.
I have the TV on to my left, and this will shock you, but a New York-based TV sports show had a question up just in their last segment. Are you more impressed with the Knicks or disappointed in the Cavaliers? I couldn't hear the answers, but I could see the body language.
Well, yeah,
finally, we've talked about them forever. Finally, they're doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Obviously, they've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, right?
And the Knicks drive it, man. They've always driven it back there, and back there tends to drive what they think the country wants to hear. That's what, and I'm grateful for that though, DJ, because that gives us the niche here for the local that we've been able to literally cash in on for a number of years, because the national shows, that's what they talk about. And you want local, you want guys who've been in the community for a long time and who know all these coaches and everything and the players and blah, blah, and follow it religiously. You've got to come to the local sports. And that's allowed us, it's allowed literally me to live out a dream.
Yeah. I have been the last, I don't know, year or so, maybe a little less than that. But certainly since the first of the year, I've been tracking a couple of national shows. I mean, there's a bunch you can track. And it's like, how is everyone reacting to this evolving media universe, right? Because it is not what you and I signed on for when we started doing this show. It is not that. We've talked, like, we get judged now. We've always been judged on the ratings, and we still get judged on the ratings, but you get judged on the streaming numbers, and you get judged on the download numbers. And there are a lot of shows are reacting, and I probably follow more than 2. I probably follow 3 or 4 now that I think about it. One has reacted by doing a lot of showbiz. A lot of showbiz in it, but it's very much an entertainment show, and it's sports as entertainment. And super loose on the sports, right? But that person is cashing paychecks on a regular basis. They have found a niche. They're like, this is the lane. I'm going to drive in this lane, and they're consistent. And then another show has just gone all NFL. To me, and I love the NFL. And I'll talk a lot of NFL, and I am still very irritated the Chargers left San Diego for LA, and I'm still in on the NFL. I'm basically living through all my friends and relatives now and talking about their team. I got one person I talk to the Raiders about. I got one person I talk to the Broncos about. I got one person I talk to the Bills about. That's how I go around the league now and how I follow several teams. And so it's really interesting that people are taking these different strategies. And there is one show that is definitely LeBron, Cowboys, Knicks, Notre Dame, Alabama. That's like, and so you're right. It's perfect for us then, because then we can talk Jazz and Mammoth, and we can talk Utes and Cougars, and we get Pablo on. And there you go. Boom. Perfect. It's a good lane for us, but it is evolving. It is changing constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I meet people out there, particularly when I go down to southern Utah. You run into people who aren't from here, from the state, and what do you do? Oh, that's interesting. And then they want to talk to you about their favorite thing, which usually has nothing to do with what the locals are. And they ask, do you talk about the Edmonton Oilers? Literally had somebody who I played golf with, and he's from Edmonton. And I said, well, yeah, when they play the Utah Mammoth.
We do.
I said, we do heavy local. That is our bread and butter. And that's what I'm paid to know about. And, and then we sprinkle in national stuff. And then we try to relate it to the locals. How does this compare? Oklahoma City, as they develop their team, how does it compare to the Jazz? What are the Washington Wizards thinking? That type of thing. And would Memphis consider trading, making a deal with the Jazz to get the player that they want? And it's all about the local thing. And yeah, and fortunately, it's no problem. I mean, I didn't grow up watching the Jazz, the Utes, or the Cougars whatsoever. When the Jazz were in the playoff against the Lakers, I watched them, obviously, in '88 because I was there, literally there. And so, I knew about them. And that's a national story, too, at that point. So it's not exactly difficult to do that. But you get into the minutia for all these teams, and it's no problem now, especially now, 30 years later, when I know so many of the cast of characters that are involved with the athletic administration and the coaching staffs and whatnot. And, want to see them all do well because it makes for good business. But it's an easy follow, the point I'm trying to make. It's not anything that I have to struggle to do and anything that I think, oh, my gosh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about that. No, it's actually quite easy to want to talk about this and watch that, whatever it might be, because it's fun and it needs to be made fun. And that's one of the things you hammered on me back in the 2000s is you got to have fun with it because it is entertainment. Sports is meant to be fun, and I want to have fun with it. And you have to get into some other stuff that isn't always the most fun stuff to talk about, but the games and the people and the personalities and so forth, that's what drives us. And that's what makes this job for me, literally a dream job. I mean, we use that expression, but I can tell you that's a fact for me. This is literally a dream job.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and we are joined now by David Locke, the radio voice of the Utah Jazz. David, good morning.
David James, Patrick Kinahan. If you're going to talk a draft board, these are two of the guys that you would put at the very top of any draft board, but similar to the way it is in the NBA draft. You would look at their talents, and you would not really know how they could utilize everything that they have at their disposal until you see them in the big time. And then they would wow you, putting skills together you never imagined and rising to levels that only you could have dreamed of when you called their name on draft night. That is David James and Patrick Kinahan.
I feel like we lose a minute of good basketball conversation every week because you got to wind up and kick this thing off with whatever you come up with, David.
I've got 7 days, 24 hours a day for 7 days to try to come up with the next silly thing I'm going to do. Right? It's hard work. If you don't appreciate it, next Friday, I'll just say good morning. That's fine. If you don't appreciate the creativity to try to talk about the greatness of the two of you to whatever is the current trend of the day, no. Next week you get good morning. We'll see how you like it.
Well, you use your draft stuff. I mean, you need draft stuff for a month now. Because you often do that. Your silly thing is usually some topical peg. I was surprised you used the draft stuff so early. I thought you'd save it for June.
I can use the draft stuff for 4 more weeks. Okay. It's all anyone cares about.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right, well, let's get to my mega question here. What if the answer to all these, 4 really good players at the top of the draft, the Jazz draft second, what should they do? Trade up, trade down, which player, all the questions. What if the answer to one of these questions is right in front of us? What if there is no backstory to why Peterson was hurt? He was hurt because he was hurt. Period. There's no backstory. He was hurt because he was hurt. And then you look at the way this is going to playoffs, and you're the first one who said, hey, the game has changed, and that's why there's so many injuries. We got these guys running and cutting and changing direction. It's especially hard on big guys like Embiid and Zion because they're just so big, but it's impacting the smaller guys too. And A.J. Mitchell went to UC Santa Barbara. I don't know him at all. I know people who know him. But obviously I'm watching him, and I see him grab his groin as he goes to the ground. And this is a young guy. He hasn't made a ton of money yet. He can one day the way he's going. He wants to make his mark. He's in a conference final. He's playing hard. He's having an impact in playoffs. When he grabs his groin, it's because he's hurt. There is no other story. It's because it hurt. And he'd be the 4th guy who's had a significant injury and missed significant time in just the first couple of games here, just getting started in this series. Should people worry about Peterson because of that? Period. End of story. The game is harder physically because all the running and cutting, and he's already been hurt, and this is going to be an even bigger problem.
There's a lot there.
You can handle it.
We lose 2 minutes of good basketball talk when DJ asked his first question.
I've been thinking about it all week. I tried to tighten it up. Sorry.
All right. Let me go with where I thought you were going at first.
Okay.
Like, Peterson just got hurt. He had a cramp issue. It freaked him out. He called it traumatic experience. He's got a little version of PTSD.
Yeah.
He's got to work through it, but he's a 6'6" guard who could score 25 a night.
Yeah.
And the answer is just right in front of us. If that's the case, then the Jazz get A.J. DeBonta. Because Darren Peterson's been the number one player in this draft for the entire draft until the cramp thing started.
Right.
And so if the cramp thing is really not a problem and there's not other stuff going on and everyone gets comfortable with that, then the Jazz get A.J. DeBonta with the second pick of the draft. Because before Darren Peterson had any of these problems, and before they were, even after he had the problems and they were reoccurring, once they became reoccurring is when A.J. DeBonta moved to the top of the draft. And I'm not convinced from the research I've done that A.J. DeBonta changed. I just think Darren Peterson changed in people's minds. I don't think A.J. DeBonta suddenly became better than what people thought he was. You guys know better than I do, but I'm watching his stuff. And if I watch game 10 and I watch game 20, there's no little less space because no Saunders, but he actually got less good as the year went on, in my opinion. All of them did, except for Darius Acuff. It's because you get in the conference play and you're playing teams that have seen you and they're scouted probably. But so that's the first question in there. Is if it's just an injury and they solved it, then if the second question is you're drafting in a manner that's trying to avoid injury, then I think Cameron Boozer vaults to the top.
Yeah.
Because the ground-bound 6'10", 250-pound players are not having the same tendon muscle problems. Sabonis gets hurt, but I think Sabonis was like a wrist or a thumb, right?
Yeah.
Şengün seemingly plays most of the time. Like those type of play. Paolo Banchero has had some of those problems, but most of the, he's had some oblique things. But most of those players that are kind of big and burly are playing right now. Jokic generally plays. He did have the awkward knee thing this year, but like that just happened. So, but I think the third thing is the injury issue, not tanking, not any of the 23 other things we talked about all year. The injury issue is the biggest issue in the NBA. And I don't know the answer. And I'm very concerned about it. And I think it's the biggest issue the league has, the same way the NFL has had weeks in which, you are starting 17 second-string quarterbacks. And they've made rule changes. I don't know what rule changes we can make. But this is the problem. It's not load management. It's that you have to cover so much ground, and we're playing so fast. Did you see how fast the first quarter of that Oklahoma City-San Antonio game was? And they were coming off a double overtime 15-round Hagler-Hearns fight.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe it. I was watching the first quarter. I was stupefied that they were playing at that breakneck pace. I couldn't believe it. And you had coaches, I think 10 players played in the first quarter of that game. It's the most players, or 20 players played in the first quarter of the game. It's the most players played in the first quarter of a playoff game in like 10 years.
You like Boozer because he can initiate the pick and roll. Is that not a fact?
That is the most intriguing thing to me about him right now. I started a project where I'm watching the final 5 minutes of all these players' close games, because I actually think the coaches tell you what they think they can do and can't do. And John Schreier went to Carlos Boozer at the top with the ball in his hands in a pick and roll a lot. And so it seems weird, like, okay, well, the 6'9", 250-pound guy can't be the pick and roll guy. Okay, but the 6'8", 235 guy, 250 guy in LA can do it, and the 6'8", 230-pound guy in Detroit can do it. So why can't the 6'10", 250 guy in Utah do it?
He can. Will they draft him?
Well, I mean, if Cameron Boozer, boy, that's going to be hard.
Let's go with
if
Boozer.
Cameron Boozer can initiate the pick and roll, I think he might be really offensively special. Like,
and you think he can?
He's the best. Again, another research project, and this one won't take long. I just haven't done it. But I think if you look back through Sabonis' career, who's a really good pick and roll handoff big, I think Sacramento's offense has always been close to top 10. If you look back at Karl Anthony Towns, kind of a big that can spread it, can really shoot it, I think his offense has always been top 10. Now, I'm not sure Boozer's your center, but I do think if you have a big that can spread the floor 5 out and be the fulcrum of your offense, I think you have a top 10 offense automatically, maybe even a top 5 offense, and none of them can play pick and roll. This would be the first one who can do it in that manner. That gets pretty fascinating to me.
You jumped my next question. If Boozer's with a center who goes away from the rim, I just don't know that people can stop Boozer one-on-one. And I know he doesn't jump as well as most guys in the NBA, and I don't think it matters. I don't know that he reads everybody's feet and shoulders and the ball fakes and go left and right and a head fake. I just don't know that people can guard him one-on-one if he has space. They're going to need a second person.
Right. I mean, you run a pick and roll, you invert the pick and roll, so that Keontae or Ace, the 1 or 2, comes and sets the pick, and Boozer's coming off the pick, and now they're switching 1 through 4. So now you have a point guard or 2 on Boozer, and you're able to and you're spread so that there's no help coming. Yeah. He killed that guy. It's what he did all college.
Right. Yeah.
He killed that guy. Now AJ might kill that guy too, frankly.
Yeah, but that's not as surprising. I mean, AJ, as soon as you see him, you think that. But Boozer, don't underestimate him because he'll kill that guy too. He'll take him apart.
Yeah, and I think about the one I think gets interesting in Will Hardy's offense is, so you start to run the off-ball screen for Ace Bailey or even Keontae George. Somebody else has to be handling up top. We don't have a second ball handler, so this would be a little difficult to be doing for Keontae. But, and Boozer goes and sets the pick, and they switch. Well, then Boozer just rolls that guy into the middle of the lane immediately. Like, you're just kind of playing a small pick and roll where he's now rolling a small into the lane, and then he can really score. So, I don't think he's going to have a hard time scoring. I do have a hard – I'm not going to lie. I watch him defensively, and it's like, oh, God. He's not that quick laterally. He's not getting off the ground. And, frankly, nor is Cade Cunningham or Luka Doncic, right? No. My podcast today is, comp Cade Cunningham and Cameron Boozer. It gets really interesting. It seems weird. It seems counterintuitive, but who averaged more assists in college? Boozer. And, they're not the same, but they're not Cade Cunningham, 6'8", 225, 230. So one guy, and I also wonder if Cameron might lose a little weight when he starts playing in the NBA. That's the other thought. I think he might go down. So I'm very intrigued by Cameron Boozer. Very intrigued.
Yeah, I can see why. I think he's been a very good player for a long time. Seen him play many times because a lot of his games in high school were on television, and obviously Duke is always on television. I think that the draft is just one addition that the Jazz will make, and they probably will have some more. How much do you think whoever they draft will lead to some personnel decisions that if they drafted DeBonsa, they would go this way. If they drafted Peterson, they'd go that way, and put Boozer in the mix too, as far as what they do to augment the roster?
So honestly, if you draft DeBonsa or Peterson, I think it has very little impact on your core other 5 players. If you draft Cameron Boozer, you have to be comfortable with Lowry Markkanen playing all of his minutes as a 3. And I think that might be fine. But you're now playing Boozer 30 minutes a night, Kessler 30 minutes a night, and Jaren Jackson 34 minutes a night. And that is your center power forward rotation, those 3 guys.
Yeah.
So there's no time for Lowry to slide down. So now Lowry's playing 34 minutes a night as your power forward, and Ace Bailey's probably playing the other 14 there. So now Ace Bailey's playing 24 minutes as your shooting guard. You need another shooting guard for 24 minutes, and you need another backup point guard, and you really need another ball handler badly. So your backup center, I don't think at that point you're paying Yusuf Nurkic. Your backup, your wing, your front, your 3-4-5 rotation is, you just need depth there, and that frankly is probably Kyle Filipowski as your extra big in some of that circumstances, at least for another year or two, and he's priced well. And then you've got to figure out who your backup 3 is. just to cover because you need one, but they probably aren't in the rotation. And then you need one or two guards in your added to your lineup of rotation players. If you're drafting Cameron Boozer. If you're drafting Darren Peterson, then you still need that guard. But Ace Bailey is now playing 24 minutes a night as your small forward and probably 14 minutes, 12 minutes a night as a shooting guard. And Lowry's playing 24 minutes a night as a 3 and probably 14 to 16 minutes a night as a 4. And Jaren Jackson's playing the other ones, and then you're backing it up with Kessler and maybe a backup center, or you're rolling Jaren over there for a few minutes a night.
I'm very excited. Assuming the Jazz sign Kessler, I'm very excited to see what this looks like. We've never seen a Jazz team that has this kind of size and will most nights be much bigger than the opposition. We have seen skilled teams that are smaller achieve pretty well, both in the Boozer D. Will era and back in the Stockton Malone era, but they usually were giving up some size at key positions. This could be an enormous team, and I'm super intrigued. However, the one thing I have out there is where we started this with the amount of injuries in the NBA. Kessler, Jackson, and Markkanen together played 21 years in the NBA, and together they've only been able to play 70 games in a season 3 times. Now, I know those numbers are impacted by tanking. I think you add them all up, 9 of the seasons have been impacted by tanking. And 4 more have been impacted by the shortened COVID season. So this isn't a shot at their durability in the past, but nonetheless, I have very little that suggests that their bodies can endure 70 or 75 or 80 games because you want them to be healthy when you get to the playoffs because they could be top 6. Maybe they could win a playoff series in 2 rounds and are they really going to be healthy that whole time? Because there's such a load being put on these guys and we haven't seen them do it. And I get why we haven't seen them do it, but nonetheless, we haven't seen them do it. So I'm curious if that is something the Jazz fans should raise an eyebrow and worry about, or whether you just dismiss that with a wave of a hand.
No, I think it's real. You used to say that the average player in the NBA is going to miss 11 games. I think you probably need to start moving that to 15. And now start building your roster, assuming you're going to be missing. So this is where I actually think Isaiah Collier, Bryce sense about Cody's a little expensive, and Kyle Filipowski become very important to the Jazz. And they're minute. I'm not sure I think that any of them are rotation players to start the year next year. But I'm not sure that matters because all these guys are going to be out. Like, if Flip is our 4th or 5th big, right? Let's say we draft Peterson or DeMonta, and Nurk comes back, and so you're Nurk and Kessler and Jaren and Lowry's your backup 4, and Lowry's your starting 3. Okay, they're going to all miss a bunch of games. Flip's going to play 50 games a year in the rotation.
Yeah.
Like, if they all miss, then Flip is the guy who steps in for, and that's where Flip's time last year really matters. If your guard line is Keontae, let's go with Darren, Lowry, Ace, whatever veteran guard you add to bring stability and ball handling, and Sensabaugh's kind of not in the rotation, well, anytime Ace or Lowry or the veteran misses some time, Bryce is coming in, and maybe Cody's coming in, and, Isaiah Collier's probably your 3rd point guard, and when whoever, he's coming in. And those guys are going to be able to have to work their way back into the rotation, I would guess, to prove that they've made the strides they've had to. It's a very different world for them, but where all the minutes they've been given in the last 2 years are very important.
David, we'll leave it right there for now. You're the man. Thanks for coming on. Enjoy.
Tip of the hat, by the way. I know a bunch of those guys are working really hard. Like the Jazz offseason program is than what Keontae did last year has leaked over, and these guys, the words I'm getting are these guys are working. Those guys they just all put out of the rotation are all working really hard to be in the rotation right now and deserve credit for that.
Thank you, David. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz spring football tour. We're going to Arizona State. Chris Karpman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports, joins us at 9 o'clock right here on The Zone.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, should I just sit this next segment out?
Why?
Well, because it's spring football. It's Arizona State. You probably know 10 times what I know about this team. You should just take the bus and just drive it.
No, people want to hear from you. You're the star of the show, man.
So do you think, and this is, I think, a question for our next guest, Chris Karpman. We were talking earlier about Sarkisian's comments about the SEC, and I do think there's a half dozen programs at the top of the SEC that are really pretty good, and I don't think that the Big 12 has that kind of depth at the top of the league. I think there's 3 teams for sure. Is ASU about to have the kind of league where we're going to say there's 4 teams for sure?
The kind of season, you mean?
The kind of season, yeah. I mean, if they go out and win 9 or 10 games, it's kind of like, all right, you're not going to win 11, 12 games every year, but it's like the floor becomes 8 or 9 and the peak's 11 or 12, and then it just depends, are you healthy? Who are you playing in these big leagues? If you miss the other, powerhouse teams, it's easier to win.
Well, they lost Sam Levitt, obviously. He took the money and ran to LSU. Hard to argue. It's unscrupulous, I guess, but money talks, and they lost the running back to Texas. So take that, Sarkisian, a kid who ran for over 1,000 yards. He took off to Texas, and so they got to replace their 2 dominant, and obviously Jordan Tyson, who's an NFL caliber player, and was a first-round draft choice. So let me know how those guys do, particularly at quarterback. Now, they haven't named the kid yet, but it looks like it's the Kentucky transfer who played as a freshman last year. And and Dillingham's had a history, man. He took Bo Nix, who was on the scrap heap when he was at Oregon, and look at him now. Now, I don't know that it was all Kenny, but there's enough of a track record there that Dillingham, for whatever reason, puts his quarterbacks in good spots. And look what he did with Levitt, right? Got him big money. And that was in college, but still got him big money. So let me know, A, the kid's ability, B, his health. And then I can't say the surprise team, because if you go 6-3, that's halfway decent, particularly with all the injuries that they had. So, but I think they have an opportunity to finish in the top 4 if things break their way and that quarterback play is pretty good. Yeah. I think that they could, I'm not going to say a surprise team, because I think they'll never be a surprise team compared to what they did 2 years ago. Right. And if that's the standard for surprise, then no, probably it would have to be Colorado and Iowa State would be the surprise teams, maybe West Virginia. Everybody else, I think, I don't know that they would be that big of a surprise, because they're all decent. Just let's see what the health is, and let's see how the individuals play. But they have a chance. I wouldn't put them as a favorite. Our guy Sharon, how do you say him? Jayaraja put out a thing post-spring and had him, I think, 7th or 8th. And that's probably fair going into the season.
I just think that he's, the first year, okay, he's getting it going. It was a bad year, whatever. The last 2, he's getting my attention here. You start averaging about 10 wins a year. He's 13-5 in conference. If they put together another good season, and all those storylines you just brought up are good, but if he carves out another, 10 wins, 6 or 7 of them in league, I don't see how we don't look at him and say, well, he's on his way to doing what he told you he wanted to do. He pointed at Kyle to you at Pac-12 Media Day, and Kyle was holding court talking to whoever else, and you were introducing yourself as ASU media in another land. And he's like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he does again, 19 wins in 2 years, so 10 or 11 wins. If he's on pace for averaging 10 wins a year, well, then you've done it. And you're a program that at the start of the year, I just assume, okay, you're in the top portion of the league. Just like I assume now Texas Tech's in the top portion of the league, and I assume Utah and BYU are. Now, Kyle is gone and Morgan's there, so the Utes have to sustain it. And they took some losses, but they didn't get gutted. Iowa State got gutted, right? That's a big lift. Morgan doesn't have a big lift. He lost some key guys. There's no doubt about that. But it's not a big lift. It's doable. So I've got Utah in until they show me they're out. But with ASU, I'm 1 year away from thinking the same thing about Dillingham, and he may well do it.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's accurate. I think you're trying to be as fair as possible without going over the top. And it's still, a little bit of let me see first. Mm-hmm. And if he does it this year, And the kid is with just a sophomore. Now, you never know. He may take off to LSU next year for the big money. But the opportunity is there to be competitive.
Dillingham can spin that. I've listened to the guy talk enough. All the press conferences are out there. You listen to pretty much all of them. I just, get some of them. But I am sure if he brings a guy in and the guy blows up and the guy takes off because some school offers him, double the money, Dillingham is going to pitch every quarterback and say, listen, Bo Nix, go watch the NFL playoffs. I sent one guy to LSU. Now I sent another guy. Come here. You will play good quarterback. You will win games. If there's more money out there, there's more money out there. Cross the bridge when you get to it. First, you got to be good, and you got to win. And I know how to help you be good, and I know how to help you win. And he's going to have the story to back it up, so he'll have no end of the line of quarterbacks parading through Tempe to learn from him. He's good at this.
Yeah, it's the Kevin Young thing. Hey, call this guy.
Yeah.
Hello, Kevin. Mr. Durant, I'm Joe Blow, recruit. Oh, let me tell you about Young. And he can do the same thing. Hello, Mr. Nix. I'm Joe Blow. Oh, let me tell you about Kenny Dillingham. And Dillingham in his office, when he does where they have the video, and video's the big thing. We've got it right now. You can look at our two faces right now as we speak. Behind him, he has a jersey of Bo Nix.
Yeah. Hey, just a reminder.
Every second of the day.
Right? This guy.
I told you at Thanksgiving, his sister lives right next door, and he had a picture of handing over food over the vinyl fence.
Mm-hmm.
And what that signals is, I'm here. This is my home. Michigan or whomever, they all can contact me. But as long as ASU takes care of me, I'm here. My sister lives right next door. We trade food over the fence.
Yeah.
It's a recruiting picture. That's why he put it out there. The guy's shrewd.
Chris Cartman, Sun Devil Source, 24/7 Sports. How good is ASU? Are they about to join the elite of the conference on a regular basis? We'll talk with him next. Stay with us.
Summer is all about freedom, fun, and growing up. And between the ages of 9 and 13, kids are starting to form their views about alcohol. With more independence, their still developing brains need more guidance and support than ever. That's why summer is the perfect time to stay connected and plan fun, safe family activities together. Research shows kids who spend quality time with their parents doing what they enjoy are less likely to drink underage. And when kids feel close to you, they're more likely to listen, especially when you set clear expectations. In fact, kids who drink before 15 are far more likely to struggle with alcohol later. This summer, create a no-bummer summer with fun, alcohol-free activities for your kids. Go to summer.parentsempowered.org to take a quick quiz and discover ideas tailored to your family. A little time together can make a big difference. For more information and to learn more about how to prevent underage drinking, visit parentsempowered.org.